First off, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us tonight. I'm Chris Timmis, superintendent. We have building principals from all the buildings and assistant principals and community ed director, et cetera, joining us so we can try to answer questions as we go through. If you do have a question that you put into the Q&A, it's helpful if you can put which building your children attend so we can kind of guide who answers. What we're going to do tonight is I'm going to run through some information and then we're just going to open it up to questions. And willing to take the time that parents need to be able to ask the questions, and we'll provide the answers as we have them today. So what I'm going to do is take over the screen and put up a presentation. The plan for the presentation is I'll go through, I want to do a quick thought exchange just to get your thoughts so I can help kind of address things as we talk through. And then we'll go through the details of what we're planning to do as far as phasing students in more frequently. We'll go through the survey data and the next steps, and then open up for question and answers. So I want to start with a quick thought exchange. In this exchange, if you have never used this, what you would do is take your phone and turn on the camera and hover over the QR code and it'll take you to the website, or you can just type in tejoin.com and type in the number. And just the question's really simple. What's on top of your heart and mind as we move toward more in-person learning for your child or children? At about the 1.5 minute mark, I'll flip over to see what people are typing in there. So if you can hover your phone camera over the QR code or go to tejoin.com and type in 338-468-202. Let me know what's on the top of your heart and mind as we move towards more in-person learning for your child or your children. You can see we have 135 people already participating. So, and please take time to rate each other's thoughts. It helps sort through so we know what's resonating, and this will help kind of guide what questions we may need to answer. So again, at about the 2 minute mark, I'll flip over to see the answers. All right, I'm going to, in 30 seconds, I'm going to flip over to the screen, see the comments and the thoughts. So we're going to visualize and look at what we have here. So safety, CDC guidelines, mental health of our kids, safety. So we have still mental health, safety protocols, want everyone to stay safe, don't want a Dexter surge, kids need to be back in person, CDC guidelines. Okay, this is helpful. Okay, in about 1 minute, we'll move over to the slides. Okay, I hope teachers are not going to be asked to teach both sets of kids on Zoom and in person at the same time. That is the model we use at the high school, but it's not the model at the other buildings. Getting kids back to normal, want everyone to stay safe. Mental health, social and emotional well-being, safety, completing the curriculum that my children are prepared, move towards in-person learning with existing teacher if possible. Will teachers have full vaccinations? Kids are suffering, need to be back in person. Return to normalcy. Consistency. Less computer time, more quality ed. Concerns about adequate social distancing. Less computer screen time. Yeah, this is really helpful. Child well-being. Okay, it's great to get an idea where everybody's heads are as we go into this. So go ahead and keep rating these. I'll circle back as we work through. So what we announced on Friday and what our plans are right now is to increase the in-person and the face-to-face instruction. I just screenshotted what I sent the staff so you can see the exact wording. And it's the plan that we're going to talk about right now at 7:30. The major changes are that Anchor and Beacon homeroom students, the home-based students can stay at home base if they choose, will return to their buildings for in-person learning every day starting on Monday, March 15th. We'll have different start and end times, and I'll touch on those in a minute. Wiley homeroom students, again, home-based students can stay home-based, will return to their buildings for in-person learning every day starting on Monday, March 22nd. Creekside homeroom students will return to their buildings for in-person learning every day starting Monday, April 5th. Again, home-based students can remain home-based. Mill Creek students will remain on the hybrid for the time being, but the day will change. It'll increase time. So the A and B days will move to start at 8:30 in the morning and go till 3:05. The high school students will remain on their hybrid, but the time of the day is going to shift. And I'll explain the logistics of that. The class lengths will stay the same. The time of the day will just push back 30 minutes. Program switches. Parents of students at Anchor, Beacon, Wiley, Creekside, and Mill Creek who wish to move their child from homeroom to home-based or vice versa will be provided a survey early tomorrow. Mill Creek's, I believe, went out yesterday. High school parents wishing to make the change should notify Ken Koenig, the high school assistant principal, by Friday, February 26th, if you want to move. Students can continue to move from homeroom to home base after the survey on a case-by-case basis. It's just going to be really hard to do it at mass. This will be the last opportunity for a change for the school year. This is part of the reason we're staging this out to bring in students starting March 15th, the 22nd, and then April 5th. After April 5th, we have 8 weeks or so of school left. So it's really the last window of changes. The start and end times. What we need to do to make this all work is Anchor, Beacon, Wiley, Creekside, and Mill Creek. We'll start school at 8:30 in the morning. Drop off can happen between 8:15 and 8:30 so that we don't get clustering of students. The school day will end at 3:05 with staggered pickup time starting at 2:50 p.m. The elementary schools, so Anchor, Beacon, Wiley, and Creekside, will continue to use the drive-line system. The high school will shift to start at 9:15 and go till 2:45. The plan is we will run the AM bus run, the first bus run. We'll pick up all the neighborhoods. We'll pull in and we'll drop the students at Anchor, Beacon, Wiley, Creekside, and Mill Creek. Then we'll send the buses back out to pick up the high school students. That's why we need the later start time for the high school at 9:15. For students who attend consortium courses, some of those courses start just after 8 o'clock. They can take the first bus run in and we'll drop them so we can get them to consortium. But for the majority of high school students, their classes will start at 9:15 and they'll go till 2:45. At the end of the day, the buses will pick up at the high school and then they'll go to Creekside or the bus hub to pick up Anchor, Beacon, Wiley, and Mill Creek and Creekside students. In order to keep everyone safe and allow us to make these changes, we ask that our community, our families, and we're asking our staff to use good judgment. Spring break's coming up. Please use good judgment. Our case rates are low in the area. We want to keep it that way. So overall, the protocols that are going to be used in the buildings are exactly the same as what we've been doing in the hybrid. The only changes are based on the American Association of Pediatrics guidance. The student spacing in the elementaries will not be 6 feet, it'll be 3 feet. This is the only way we can get more kids in the building and more frequently. We will, because we're running full days, we'll run specials in person. So art, music, PE, media, and language will be run in person at young 5s through 6th grade. This will require cleaning protocols and no sharing of materials from class to class. The schedule will allow time to let us clean before the next class comes in. Lunches will be spread out more throughout the day, and they may extend outside the cafeterias in order to keep the 6 feet spacing when masks are off. So we're going to move to 3 foot spacing at minimum in classrooms. At lunch, when their masks are off, and at snacks, they'll have 6 foot spacing, every student. That will require in some buildings to set up some space for kids to eat outside of the cafeteria in monitored areas. In the elementary schools, we'll end up running, for the most part, 2 recesses instead of 1. They'll be a little shorter, but it gets the kids a chance to get outside and move and get a little break with masks, et cetera. Yeah, they can get mask breaks if they're spread out from others. The survey data. So a couple weeks ago, we asked our staff to find out where we are on vaccines. Where we were as of about 2 weeks ago is 47% of our staff had not yet been offered an appointment. We know that this is significantly lower. So that was about 190 staff members at that time. We know we've had about 100 appointments in the last week that we've been able to set up last week or this week. So we're getting really close to having our staff vaccinated. The survey data, when we asked for parent input, we have 3,500 students. We received just shy of 2,500 responses. So good distribution as far as buildings that responded, pretty representative of what the population breakdowns are by building. When we asked at the elementary level, we had, and this is pretty representative of what we have about 25% of our students on home-based and about 75% on homeroom. We asked the question, if the district moved to fully in-person with only 3 foot of spacing in classrooms, but following all other cleaning protocols and mitigation strategies, would you send your child? And overwhelmingly, parents said yes. We've then cross-referenced, because we had 25% of our families on home-based, on what percentage of those 25% are in this 21%. So we've worked through that data. But we knew when we asked the survey was a pulse, the real signups are going to go out tomorrow. We also asked about what parents would do if their child had to change classroom teachers, and this has helped to inform our work. We are going to try to keep, if we would like to keep kids with their teachers. We cannot guarantee as we move back in. So if a student in the younger grades wants to move from homeroom to home-based, they're going to have to change teachers. The survey data, when we asked at 5th and 6th grade, we had an exact 50% split between 5th grade and 6th grade responses. This is pretty consistent with the number of students. So it's 23.5% of respondents said they were home-based and 76.5% said they were homeroom. That's pretty consistent with the actual enrollments. 79% said they would send their child to an all in person with the 3 foot of spacing. And then we asked about changing teachers, and this was important data for us to work through. We also asked, and we are not going to do this based on the responses. This was a really quick, okay, we're not doing that. We asked families if we moved to 5 days where we did every day of the week, a half day, an A group in the morning, a B group in the afternoon, and we provided busing, what they would do. And then we found out that I was a math major. I need to give my math degree back. We didn't have the times balance between the 2 groups, so we had to adjust, but overall it was a 54% and 46% roughly split. So really there was nothing conclusive to say that was a better idea than what we're doing now. We asked the same things at Mill Creek. So a good split between 7th and 8th graders, pretty representative as far as the breakdown of home-based and homeroom parents or of students. We then asked the question if we did the half day every day model versus the current full day A and B days. And it really fell stronger on staying with the current A and B days, but the longer days. We asked at the high school, question about testing. I met with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services today about testing, and they're not using PCR testing, but there are different testing options out there. And so far, about 61% of our families would allow their child to be tested. About 29% would want more information, and about 10% would not. So we wanted to get an idea of where families were on this question. We have been watching our internal cases. We do a weekly dashboard that we update. We have not updated this week because it hasn't changed so far. Back in December, we had a total of 27 students that had been confirmed positive all year and 7 staff. Back when the beginning and the start of the 2021 school year, we were up to 29 students total that have tested positive. And I just want to note as I go through these, as we've looked at the data of the times we've had students in school, we have only had 4 students that were actually in school for a homeroom hybrid setting so far this year that tested positive while we were in school. Only 2 of them actually came ever into the building. So we have seen very little cases of students that were positive for COVID-19 in school, and we've seen no cases of student-to-student spread in school or student-to-staff. So as of January 4th, we had a total of 29 students that were positive this year. As of the end of last week, we've had a total of 32. We've had 3 cases in the last month and a half of students. Staff, we've had 4 cases. None of those cases were related to transmission in school. So when we look, we had several weeks where we didn't have anybody in quarantine or any students positive or staff positive. When we look at the county data, we have watched, it was really high and has significantly dropped. The infection rate is down to 0.82. The positivity rate as of the day I pulled this data was 2.2%, and the daily new cases was 15.7. where it was close to 30 and an infection rate over 1 back in January. When we look at the infection rate, it's continued to drop, which indicates that cases will continue to drop. When we look at more granular data, so back over a 2-week period from January 14th through January 27th, there were 25 cases in Dexter. There were 1,076 total cases in the county. It went up January 21st through February 3rd to 1,237 cases, still 25 cases in 48130. We then went to 26 cases in 48130 and then to 27, but pretty steady. As a county, we over a 2-week period went to 1,103. The last 2-week period, we're down to 883. When we look at those cases, 65% of those cases are 18 to 22-year-olds, mostly at the University of Michigan campus. We are not seeing spread from those students into our communities. 2% of those cases were 0 to 9-year-olds, so our elementary age students. So overall, in the last 2 weeks, 833 cases in the county, 18 of those cases were young 5s through 3rd grade students. So 0 to 9-year-olds. The next way the data is carved, it's 10 to 18-year-olds, so it's hard to convert. But the majority of those cases, so out of the 833 cases in the county, 542 of them are 18 to 22-year-olds. So we're not seeing community spread in our actual community where our parents are and our kids are. Once we bring students into full in-person, and even while we're in the hybrid, the factors we'll use to decide if we have to go out are a combination of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Policy Lab questions and a combination of CDC and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services guidance. Where we are on the original Michigan Department of Health and Human Services risk level determinations is we're at 142 cases per million and a 2.3% positivity rate. This was as of last week when I pulled the slide. So that puts us in the very high category for cases. But remember, 65% of those are on the U of M campus. So in reality, we are closer to medium or medium high. And then in terms of positivity rate, we're in the low area. Our positivity rate is extremely low. Their guidance says in person with mitigation measures. And when they say in person, they didn't say reduced density, they mean in person. As a county, the county runs a dashboard every week. It's updated every Thursday. Last Thursday, it just is the same data, different setup, and shows the sources. The CDC guidance, they have this large rubric, then they have a smaller one. The large rubric, we are at lower risk or lower to moderate in every category in Dexter and as a county. When we look at the newest CDC guidance, they have 2 areas and 4 colors for the ratings. The total new cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days. So some of the data is the past 14 days. This is a 7-day. So pulling from the CDC website yesterday, we were at 115. Over 60% of them were on the U of M campus. So the 115 would put us at a high, but in reality, we're at a moderate. We're currently at 1.59% of positive tests in the last 7 days, which puts us in the low transmission. So our next steps is that young 5s through 6th grade parents will receive a survey in the morning with a request to answer this week. So we can work on the changes and request in order to be ready for that March 15th, March 22nd, and that April date to get started. After the changes are processed, specific information will be sent from buildings and teachers on the next steps. There may be conversations with principals, depending on what the change is, to try to think through what the options are. But the survey will go out in the morning. Mill Creek sent a survey out yesterday. That's due Friday. The day on March 15th will extend from 8:30 to 3:05. Home-based and homeroom. The changes will start April 5th, so the start of the 4th quarter if a parent wants to make a change. The doors on the A and B days when students attend will open at 8:20. Enrichment, band, orchestra, and chorus will receive in person for homeroom students. It'll be taught in the school or outside in tents, depending on weather. When we look at schedules, the day will run from 8:30 to 3:05. Class times will vary by teams. Overall, on a virtual day, students will have core, enrichment class, core, lunch, core, and then they'll have music, language, or support time or work time and mentoring time. On a virtual day on Tuesdays and Fridays, here's the schedule, what it'll look like. This will all be sent out by the building. Just wanted to give you an overview today. When we look at Mill Creek, the students that are on full virtual with Lincoln Learning, there'll be a morning check-in time. We'll start at 8:30, starting March 15th. At the high school, parents that wish to change their student from their current homeroom or home-based choice should notify Mr. Koenig. Just email them at that email address. And this full presentation will be on the website after this meeting today. No later than Friday, if you can. Those changes would go into effect on March 15th so that we can have families align. If they have younger children, they need to align. The daily schedule of the high school will be adjusted 30 minutes later, beginning on March 15th. So the day right now goes from 8:45 to 2:15. We're going to push it back 30 minutes. The doors, when we move to that 9:15 start, the doors will open at 8:45 a.m. and classes will begin at 9:15. What we don't want our students congregating in the building because we want to keep kids safe and we need to keep distancing. So I want to open up to questions and answers. I know there was a lot of information. What we have, all of our principals are here to be able to answer questions. If you want to try to type those in, I'll try to answer. So let me knock through the ones I can see. Why wasn't there a question for Mill Creek or high school to go back full face-to-face only 5 days a week? The reason for that is because given the CDC guidance, et cetera, the American Association of Pediatrics says that elementary students can be spaced at 3 feet. The older students, they're still recommending 6 feet, and they physically cannot fit in the rooms if we have more than the hybrid at this point. Any thoughts on utilizing outdoor space for high school and temp swarm? We'll be looking at that. We wanted to get the elementary in first, and we will look as the rates go. But as of right now, we want to focus on elementary. Mill Creek, will homeroom students go back more than 2 days? Oh, I see Jamie's answering that one. I don't know what she's answering. Let me go to the next one. Is there anything we can learn from Howell High School where they've been full face-to-face since September? We have talked to them. They are not using 6-foot spacing in classrooms. We're not comfortable doing that at this point. Will Dexter High School be hybrid AB for the rest of the year? We're not sure at this point. Right now, will be hybrid unless the rates get better, and the high school, we're still staying on the hybrid for now. So even though most cases are centered around the U of M campus, those students interact with the community. This has prompted 2 U of M campus quarantines to minimize spread in the rest of the community. Where does the county health department stand on your plan? Are they concerned with the higher numbers in the county? We meet with the health department multiple times a week, and they are perfectly comfortable with our plan. They have not seen the spread from the campus like what we were concerned about. We took a delay at the beginning of the year, concerned about that. We did not see that kind of spread. The research across the country shows that with the mitigation strategies, especially at the younger levels, they have not seen spread in the schools. Our internal data shows we have not seen spread in the schools. It's contingent on the protocols and contingent on the community spread rates, which we are in the range right now that we should not see that based on the research and the protocols. Why was the decision to make the younger students' day longer rather than the high school? The high school students, as we've talked to them, they like the later start. The independence of the younger students is less, so we wanted to be able to help our younger students and their families. We know families are struggling with their 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and we wanted to get them in school. We know that for the younger students, the longer day, they're up early, they're ready to go. And we wanted the priority, and where we can do the 3-foot spacing is with the younger kids. So we wanted to be able to get the younger kids in first. And in order to make the high school, the bus runs work, we needed to get that extra hour to be able to get the buses to turn around and go back out. When will we learn about bus time changes? That'll be coming in the next week or two. We'll send out an alert when it is done. Did you work with the teachers union before making decisions? Yes, they are actually on our return to school planning team, and we meet continuously. Will Wiley in person remain 9 to 2 until March 22nd? Katie, do you want to answer that one? They're going to move to the new times, but do you want to answer? I see you typing. So
I was typing. Do you want me to keep typing?
Yeah, just go ahead and answer it.
Okay, I will.
Do you want to just say it verbally?
Hi, Liz. Wiley will switch to the new schedule March 15th. So it'll be kids can come between 8:15 and 8:30, and then dismissal will be between 2:50 and 3:05.
Thank you. Is there still a bus driver shortage? I've been driving my daughter, but wondering about bus availability starting March 15th. If you need the bus with this setup and doing hybrid at Mill Creek and still hybrid at the high school with that second loop, we can make that work. We've been able to watch our bus numbers. There is always a bus driver shortage. If you know of anybody who wants to work for us, we'd love to hire them. So if you need the bus, though, please don't hesitate to use it. It just is one of the challenges is the spacing, and we think we can keep doing the spacing based on the numbers at this time. When will transportation release updated times? Sometime in the next week or so, they're working through the routes. One of the challenges with the high school routes is we don't have the same ridership at the high school. So we don't necessarily have to do all of the routes. So they're retweaking those. That's part of the reason for the March 15th stagger. It gives us a little more time. So we'll give it out at least a week before. But the current routes for the 8:30 start will be, if you just kind of back it back about a half hour, you'll be pretty close to the times. I know that the orchestra room at Mill Creek is currently used as an extended lunch area. Did I understand correctly that orchestra will be back in person? How will that work? Yes, we'll be using, the building will work through spaces so that orchestra can teach. Timeline for high school students to be back in person, we don't have that at this time. What is the plan for kids who attend special ed? Any plan to get them in person more frequently, even for a short time? I see Ann is answering that question. High school, just to comment at the high school level, I hope the district does not choose to go back full time this year. Good choice to be safe since spacing is not ideal. Also, I think the Wednesday off day is very important to maintain to allow teachers to address extra time needed to help home-based students and to plan with extra workload for online teaching. Please do not change class times again for the high school for the rest of the year. Too many changes are tough to adjust to. Thank you for sharing that. If students get a new, it moved. Sorry, they move around if I don't click answer live fast enough. Do we need to contact busing if our plans are different with using buses with the longer school day? That would be helpful, but let's get the routes out first so we can see what the times work out to, but they'll be sharing that. My hope is late this week, they should have an idea. If not early next week. Are there any plans to use Wednesday as a it moved on me again. Are there any plans to use Wednesday as a teaching day if the high school continues with a hybrid plan through the rest of the year? Couldn't students rotate through all classes virtually as they did for count days and gain the benefit of additional instruction? They'll work with the high school staff and figure out. There's a lot of students. When we met with the parents at the high school, we met with the students at the high school. And one of the big feedback points was that they really like the Wednesdays. There's students that like the asynchronous Wednesdays as far as workload and planning and time. And the office hours have been really powerful with a lot of kids. So that is one of the factors to weigh out. It's something that is a positive for a lot of kids that we want to try to weigh out before we go and make a drastic change. You referred to drive time at Wiley. What is that? That's the pickup system where when parents pull up, there's a number and then it sends to the building to send the kids out at that time. It allows us to stagger the pickups in a logical way. It's the same thing we've been doing. Universities have asked students to quarantine upon returning from an extended visit off campus. Have you considered asking families to quarantine or work virtually for 2 weeks if they travel over spring break? We've talked to the health department and they're not sure we can force that. We've talked about it, but we're not there. Right now, we want to trust our families to make good decisions. What we did see is we did not see after Thanksgiving, we did not see a huge spike in our district data. We did not see a huge spike after the first of the year. After that 2 weeks, we did not see a big spike after Martin Luther King weekend. So we have not had an experience of seeing big spikes. Let's see. Thank you for all the DCS staff. We appreciate you all and everything you've done for our children. Thank you. That means a lot. For those of us on audio only, if you mention a question is being answered, please answer it out loud. Going as fast as we can, Jared. There are some that they're typing. They're coming in quick. How are the kindergarten rooms going to be set up for social distancing? Any plexiglass type dividers between students and or teacher? Craig, do you want to answer that real quick, just verbally?
Yeah, I can jump on. I can jump on and mention it. So thanks, Rick. As far as talking with our staff, so the kindergarten classrooms, we are looking at utilizing the spaces as far as the tables we have in the room, offering to teachers if they need to move a few things out to create the space in their classroom. So teachers are going to think outside of the box a little bit, just how they set up the days. We're not going to have our kids sitting just in a chair at a table all day long. There'll be opportunities to get up, move around, and we'll be shifting the learning spaces throughout the day. So that is something as our teachers are getting this, we're figuring out a good plan.
Yep. And one of the things we've worked through and what we really know about little kids is we set the desks 6 feet apart, and anybody that has little kids sees them continue to congregate close together, and then we separate them. It's a balancing act all day. So the desks will be 3 feet apart and they'll continue to kind of work back and forth because they don't sit still. That's the beauty of being a little kid. But what we're also seeing is we're not seeing spread with little kids. let me see if I can, I apologize for so many questions. By the way, you guys are doing great. Thank you for the thoughtful approach to this. Obviously, none of us have ever dealt with something like this in our lifetimes. How will specials such as music, PE, et cetera, that require heavy breathing mitigate spread in the classroom? That's a great question. What we're doing at the older levels, like band, the band studies say 12 feet with, I forget what they're called. They're covers over the end of the instrument in masks with little holes in them so that there's no spray outside. The singing is 12 feet, so we're going to find spaces where we can do that. And then we can use some outdoor space. We've been doing band, orchestra, and choir at the high school since they've been back, so we've been able to test out some protocols, and it's the same teachers that would do this at the other buildings. So is Wiley starting at 8:30 a.m. on 3/15? Yes. And it's 5 days a week starting at that time. Well, actually, Katie, can you, Katie, can you turn on your mic and just
Yep.
that first week? So that 3:15, when Anchor and Beacon are in person, 5 days. Wiley's schedule that week will be 8:30 to 3:05, but what's it gonna look like?
So if your child attends on the A days, Monday and Thursday, he or she will come to school from 8:30 to 3:05. And then if your child's on B days, same thing, only on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then Wednesday will not change, but the following week, when kids are in all 5 days a week, both homeroom and home-based students will be following the new schedule and will have instruction all 5 days.
Great, thank you. Question or statement, my first grader started at home-based and switched to homeroom in January. I am so impressed with the teachers and staff supporting both programs. My daughter is beyond excited to go full-time. Thank you for all your hard work and transparency. Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you for all your support. Apologies if I missed this and hope it does not happen, but what will the threshold be for pausing in-person learning if case counts begin to rise and or there are positive cases in the school? We did go over that a little bit, but I'll be on what it's going to be is on looking at the individual situations. There'll probably be quarantines of classrooms or specific students. We have only had to do 2 quarantines of classes all year. One was a preschool with ECSE class, and then there was one with at Wiley, and then we actually had, when we took that pause back in November, we had one more class, but it's looking better. Our protocols are pretty good, or they're better. They're good. They're so good that I am 100% comfortable saying we're bringing in our K-6 students every day, and I'm sending my own kid. So when we look at it, we'll continue to do contact tracing. We've had to quarantine some teams, but we'll only shut the school down if those Children's Hospital Philadelphia factors start to put into play, or the CDC and MDHHS guidance that's in the presentation shows that that's our best option. And this presentation will be on the website after. Milk, Jamie, I have no idea what you're typing on that one.
Is this the home-based music question?
Yeah, do you want to do that one?
Yeah, it'll be way easier to answer than try to type. So right now, music courses are all coming back in person. There'll still be the virtual programming for home-based students. The seats right now in our music classes are reserved for in-person students. We have a small capacity to accommodate the A and B day schedules. If we're in and all of a sudden we notice that we have lots of seats available in the music courses and allow for accommodation for all the home-based students, we'll revisit that. But right now it's for in-person learning.
Great, thank you. So 5 classes, has Dexter considered doing every class for the 4 days instruction is provided, or will it always be the 3 classes? As of right now, the high school is still doing the 3 and 3. They've talked about options, but what we're getting feedback from teachers and a lot of the kids is this is working for them. I know it's unlikely, but what happens if numbers start to spike again? I'm sorry if this was asked already. No, that's a great question. If they do start to spike, we'll follow the guidance from the CDC, MDHHS, and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And if it means that we need to move to a hybrid and reduce density or move to remote, then we'll do that. But we would not make this move if we weren't fairly confident we could stay in this model for the rest of the year. Why do you have to stagger the Beacon and Anchor and the Wiley kids return to school by 1 week? It's a great question. One of the things we've been working through, there's a couple factors that play into that. We have several shared staff. And as we've tried to work through schedules to make it work, what we know is that in a normal year, we would start planning for fall now. And we would figure out all the logistics of who needs to be in what building at what time. So for example, we have music teachers that some of the teachers start at Anchor or Beacon in the morning, some are at Wiley in the morning, and some are at the high school. At a specific time of the day, from 11:18 to 12:47, they all need to be at Creekside. And then by 1:15, they all need to be at Mill Creek, or back to Creekside, or back to Wiley or Anchor or Beacon. So as we look through all of these kind of these movements, what we wanted to do is just, we knew 1 week wasn't going to make or break us, and it gives us a chance not to screw that up, because if we did, we're going to have, the whole model's not going to work. We need to make sure that we have people, and the right people that know the protocols in the right places to make this work safely. We can't just plop in a sub or merge classes. Historically, what schools do is when we end up with, we're short on staff, we'll just merge classes. In a pandemic that's respiratory, spread through respiratory, we can't merge classes. So that's why we just want to be careful and be sure we have all the logistics working. The second component is that we want to balance out the safety of our staff. In order to make this all work, our staff needs to feel safe and comfortable teaching kids. Our K2 staff are scheduled for vaccinations this week. 3rd and 4th grade staff, 5th and 6th grade staff will go in next in the list. So we're able to try to speed that up, and that 1 week or 2 weeks gives us time to make sure our staff's vaccinated. It's trying to merge multiple needs and make it all work. Do you feel confident that the AP courses are provided, the required materials needed for AP and IB exams? I realize teachers are doing their best and they can appreciate this. So Kit, you have a great answer for this. You shared it last night, and I don't want to take away your words, but can you share some sage wisdom? As a former AP teacher and someone who's run schools with IB, I know that the content can be covered however the structure is, but Kit, you have a phenomenal answer.
Oh, way to set the bar high, Dr. Timmis. Yeah, it's a really good question, and we've been struggling with that since school started. But the good news for the high school is we have been on this schedule all year. So AP teachers, as well as IB teachers, have been aware all year that the tests were coming in May, and that they were going to have to build the content and build the class with that in mind. So they focused on the skills kids need to have, and then they back planned from May so that they're ready. So there are schools, and I know if we think this through, it makes sense. There are schools around the country that are on all types of different schedules. So what our teachers have to do, especially in AP, is they have to get their syllabus approved, and then our teachers are going to teach that syllabus like they have. So would they like more time? Just like every coach wants more time before the first game, our teachers would love more time. But they feel real confident. The kids are in a good place. They're doing lots of practice. And there was another question in there, Dr. Timmis, about AP and IB testing. We really aren't sure what we're going to do yet. College Board has given us 3 very odd scenarios that we need to choose from. And IB is still up in the air as well. And they're, again, separate organizations entirely. And Deb Marsh and Karen Walls and I have been meeting regularly to try to figure out when we're going to have to make some decisions on that.
Thank you. There are many larger school districts that are face-to-face every day, including one where I teach. Teachers are vaccinated. Will you please consider increasing face-to-face days for our Mill Creek and high school students? My kids need more instruction time. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, we will continue to look at it. We want to make sure, one of the challenges that's different. So I know of a couple districts I've talked to where at the beginning of the year, they asked their student or their families to choose, and about half, upwards of half their students chose to stay virtual all year. So they're able to operate and they're not allowing the movement back and forth. So they're able to operate with 50%. We have other districts that near us, they have high schools that are designed for 2,000 students and their full enrollment on a normal day is 850. So when they bring them in, the building's half empty to begin with. We have the opposite problem. Dexter High School is built for 1,200 students and we are at 1,213 as far as students. We've had a unique challenge through this. Some of the challenges we've had is we've had to build 2 buildings in the last couple of years because we didn't have additional space, and we bought millions of dollars worth of flexible furniture, which is great in a non-pandemic. If you have traditional desks, it's much easier than flexible furniture to be able to space them. So we're still committed to the space. We don't want to see spread in the schools and want to keep everyone safe. And our students, and we've done NWEA assessments in multiple grades. What we saw based on last winter through fall is the data looked a lot like it does in a normal winter to fall. And then based on the assessments we did this winter, they look really similar to what they normally look like. So we're actually pleasantly surprised by how well our students are doing. And we know it's not ideal. The options in this setting, and I've said this in multiple meetings in the last couple of weeks, where trying to provide school safely in a pandemic, you have nothing but a list of bad options. You want to pick the least bad option. So we are at a point right now where we feel comfortable with elementary students phasing in. We want to keep our staff safe, and we will continue to look at options at the middle and high school. But in the immediate, we can start phasing in our K-6, and that's where we want to focus our time. So we appreciate your patience as we work through this. Based on those you have scheduled, what % of teachers will be through both vaccines by the time school starts back in person? It's a great question. We were at about 50% that were scheduled for at least one of their first shot a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. So by the end of this week, we'll be at all but 60 to 100, it looks like. So we're getting close, and we don't know. What we did is we did not ask exact individuals to tell us. We asked overall. What we asked is that anonymously, who has already been offered a vaccine and who has been vaccinated, so we can kind of get a pulse. We didn't ask for individual people because there are some staff that, like any individual, may choose not to or cannot because of an underlying medical condition, and we didn't want to be overly obtrusive. Our job as a district is to provide them the opportunity, and we've been working relentlessly to do that. And just today, we were able to send to the K2, all the K2 staff, and to add appointments to get all of our 40 to 49-year-olds on top of that, and that should get us down to under 100 final people. There's a lot of discussion about cases. What about those cases that end in a full recovery? When will the data be considered with regards to planning? I'm going to try to answer this based on how I understand the question. The data we have is what we've been shared by health experts and told to follow by the CDC and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and other professional experts. We are not epidemiologists or infectious disease experts. We're experts on school. So we've been working with outside resources to guide us, and they've given us their best guidance, and that's what we've had to work from. The guidance is very clear on the 6-foot spacing. At the secondary level, the the American Association of Pediatrics even says 6 feet for middle and high school students. The CDC says 6 feet for middle and high school students. Department of Health and Human Services says 6 feet between high school students. That's been consistent from every source. Some sources are saying with the younger students, especially like the American Association of Pediatrics says because of lung capacity, the 0 to 9-year-olds are not seeing the spread. And elementary students overall, they're saying we could do 3 feet safely. Why not have the specialist teachers come to them? Seems like it would be difficult to sanitize appropriate between classes. Also, what about gym equipment? We can wipe things down. The cleaning, the spread and the transmission from touch and from surfaces has been reevaluated. The cleaning methods, we've been able to find quicker dry times and less toxic chemicals that are also effective. They're peroxide based and et cetera, so we can clean quicker. We've worked out protocols that work much better. For example, at the high school, we can clean 60 classrooms during the passing time. So we know we can do this with the elementary specials. We're not going to share gym equipment. We'll have to rotate the equipment. Craig, did you have anything else? I see you're typing.
Yeah, no, you got it, Chris. I think that's basically the answer you gave, right? So we got a plan to put 15 minutes in between specials as well to make sure there's time for cleaning and making sure stuff is taken care of. So, and we got a plan for cleaning those supplies and taking supplies back and forth.
Okay, great. I think we're pretty good. Anyone else have any questions? We're happy to stay and answer whatever is asked. I see a couple are typed answers, so I can't, they look like they're being answered. If anybody else has any questions, we appreciate you taking the time, and surveys are going out. Times for classes will be changing. We appreciate your trust in the district for helping us work through this for our kids. We know that we are a year in, and we've been really working collaboratively with our community to do what's best for our kids. We did not want to let our kids and be the test subjects early on in the year. We brought our students in and started bringing them back in October after we saw what was going on in schools. We were ready to ramp up and start increasing the frequency then when we were asked to take a break. So then January came around and we brought our elementaries back in, and now we brought our high school and middle school in at a logical time with the semester, and we are ready to increase frequency for our kids. We're so excited to see our kids in the buildings and get closer to a sense of normalcy. We will be running a large summer program this summer at all grades. We'll have credit recovery options at the high school at no cost, and then we're going to have elementary up through middle school camps opportunities for free for families. We're working out the details. We'll announce those in April. They won't be all day, they'll be half day probably. We'll provide transportation. We're looking to get our kids engaged and allow them to be kids and work out of there. The light is at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic, and we'd like to keep moving forward. And we just need we need help from our families, use good judgment. All the cases we have seen are happening outside of school. So if you can use good judgment outside of school, we appreciate it. And the summer programs, we'll announce that in mid-April. We're not quite ready yet. We have a team working on those plans to try to integrate music and arts and athletic opportunities and other just activities set up for kindergarten up. And we're really moving as fast as we can do to try to support all of our kids. So we appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words coming in. So we have a question about why is it not possible to extend the high school day and have all their classes on the days they're in there 1 day a week in each class is really hard for some kids. That is, we've been working through that. What we know is that when we ran 6 classes a day, we had students that struggled in that model. We have students that in the 3 classes a day are struggling. When we ran 6 classes a day, we had students that did well in that. In the 3 classes, we have students that are doing well in that. So we're trying to make sure that we can balance out options. And we know there's no one size fits all for kids and success, even in a traditional school year. So we're trying to be as fluid and as thoughtful as we can. Some of the logistics that we run into just when we move the times for elementary and high school start times is we we work through trying to make sure we have kids that get picked up by their high school sibling, et cetera. So it's a constant balance trying to work through. We have offered, so a question about ancillary staff have an opportunity to be vaccinated. We have offered, we had what were part of the 1A, so like our students and our staff in the high needs special education classrooms where they have to help students with toileting, et cetera. They were vaccinated first. Then we worked on 65-year-old staff and older, then 50 and older. And now we're working on K2 and plus the 40 to 49-year-olds with the health department. So we're going pretty quickly. Anybody that works for us has the opportunity to get vaccinated. So we're working through as fast as we can. If you have plans to travel for spring break and out of caution would like to quarantine when you return, will there be options for homeroom but still receive instruction? If you're going to do that, if you can work with the building, because it's going to depend on the building setup, how we're going to do that. If high school does go 100%, will teachers still have to Zoom home-based students simultaneously? We have not looked at bringing the high school 100% at this time. We're working on K6 first. Are you concerned with all the students that have left the district in favor of other schools that offer full face-to-face for all of their students? We looked at our who left for where, and there is no clear pattern of where everyone went. We have had students coming back. Our biggest drop in students was in the earliest grades, and most were because they were homeschooled. What we have seen across the state is about 5% of the students in public schools did not return to public schools. Our numbers are fairly consistent nationally. I think it's 5.6%. So we are looking at what can be, what'll happen by fall. All of us are navigating this, and parents are making choices based on their needs and what their family situations are. We've had some students that every day we get calls from districts that aren't open from their families wanting to come here. It's really going to be interesting and challenging to see all the movements that really do happen. When we look at the movements, it's challenging to see, and every district you talk to, kids are coming and going, and we're all trying to support our students. So everyone has a different setting and different needs, and we'll continue to work with our families. So we appreciate it and appreciate your patience. Fortunately, as a district, when we talk about finances and students, our board's been very responsible to keep stability. And generally we're a district that students want to come to, and we outperform our peers. So we feel pretty confident we'll continue to do so. So thank you. If you have any questions you want to hang on, please stay. If not, we're wrapped up, and we appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for your patience and trust in Dexter Community Schools. So thank you.